I grew up in a broken home. Like my dad left my mom when I was about 5. And I still remember like my dad like slamming my mom up against the refrigerator. But I see a Bible on top of this rubble. Now, I'd never read the Bible before. I went to church and heard preaching and got saved, but I'd never read it for myself. So I picked this Bible up right before I start rifling through all her stuff, because that's what I was going to do. I opened it and I read the Bible for 4 hours straight. Like I went down there. This is how I know the Lord can use any situation. I went down there to steal, and the Lord changed my entire life.
Matt has always been a writer. He wrote everything on like scrap pieces of paper around the house. I couldn't throw them away because I'm like, there's beautiful lyrics on it. So they all ended up in like drawers. And it wasn't like he was ever striving to become a professional writer. He just was writing music at home for Jesus.
This is the first time that I know I heard the Lord's voice. I went to the altar. I'm gonna try not to get emotional. I'm not gonna cry. My eyes are sweaty here.
This podcast sucks. Why did we agree to this?
I don't like to cry because I'm a man, and they said that like if they bottled my tears, it could cure snake bites.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We are Influence Music, a worship team out of Southern California. We write and record music for the glory of God. The purpose of this podcast is to have spirit-led conversations that will hopefully inspire you to deepen your relationship with Jesus Christ. We have prayed over this episode and over you, and we pray that this blesses you. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Influence Music Podcast. Guys, I'm so excited. This is episode 1 of the Influence Music Podcast. Thank you guys for being with us. Matt and Aime Pelt, do you guys want to introduce yourselves first?
I'm Matt Pelt. I've been with Influence now for about a year and a half. Songwriter, worship leader, all the things. Just thankful to be a part.
Yep, and I am Aime Pelt. I've been married to Matt now for about 14 years, and it's been a wonderful journey.
That's amazing. Thank you guys for being here. I'm Whitney Medina. I am the host for today's episode, and I have been with Influence Music since 2017, which is crazy. And I get to lead worship here at Influence Church in Anaheim Hills, California, Southern California. But it's so good to have you guys with us. Thank you again for being on episode 1.
Episode 1.
Episode number 1, because you guys are number 1. And you are a blessing to have. Seriously, we love you guys so much. Okay, so first, I just have to ask, okay, we have you, Aime, on today's episode because your guys' dynamic is so fun, just being a married couple. But you're so funny because Matt will start to tell a story and you'll be like, no. Okay, but you missed X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that is why we have you today. You are the anchor. You're going to bring everything back around, make sense of things. But what's your guys' dynamic at home? I'm so curious. Please tell us.
Okay, so I am more of the like fun parent that just, the kids most likely will come to me if they're like, I want to be able to get what I'm trying to ask for.
Is this true?
She's more of the like, I'm going to be the parent that does what needs to actually be done.
Mm-hmm.
And then if she sees that I've done that thing that shouldn't have been done, then I get interrogated,
I
like
think that's fair.
Jack
Jimmy.
Bauer of 24. And so, yeah, because she was brought up, her dad is ex-military. He's the nicest guy, but, they didn't
But growing up,
they didn't ask any questions when he said to do something. They're like, yes, sir. I grew up where it was just like, you do what you want to do, talk back if you want to talk back. And I should have probably been handled with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have 6 kids, so it's definitely a lot to manage. But we have 5 girls and 1 little boy, which we call the grand finale
I love that.
that's it. But yeah, so it is a big family, and but you're a wonderful dad, though. It's great to have a fun parent that keeps the kids laughing and plays with them.
Aime, you're so sweet.
Yeah.
I love that.
You know what? Honestly, though, I've had to learn how to be like what a parent actually should be, like from seeing her and her family, like how they relate to each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love you guys.
Well, we love you guys. Whitney Medina,
Whitney
my
Medina.
favorite
Con Disney.
influence member.
Oh,
You know,
you heard it here first.
I
the
said that
favorite.
to you the first time we met in person.
You don't know what's real or what's not the first time you meet in person.
Yeah.
But now I know because you've been around us all enough
Right.
that I am in fact your favorite and Amy's because you guys are one.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I win. Okay, so really quickly,
Mhm.
how did you and Melody get connected? How did you get connected with Influence Music?
So it's a kind of I feel like a providential story. Like
Mhm.
I met a girl by just complete chance at this writing camp, and it was a writing camp that I had to audition for. It only took 20 people, and they had professional writers at this camp, like the people from like Maverick City was there, Pat Barrett, all these different people, and then the amateur people that were picked to come also had to be there. But we were only supposed to write with each other, just the like amateurs. And so they put me in a room with these people, and they're like, "We need a guitar player in this other room because their guitar player like bailed. I don't know what happened."
Hmm.
But he puts me in a room, and it's with Lauren Evans, who is a mutual friend of yours. I don't know who Lauren Evans is. I don't know that all these people are professional writers. So I'm making all these dumb jokes. I'm doing all the stuff. And we end up writing a song, and she's like, "Man, you're a good writer." And so
Yeah.
she connected me with Melody and with Influence.
Can I just backtrack 1 second and just say that,
Yes, you can.
you know, like who told you about that writing camp that you should audition for? Because that was me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your good thing.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
one thing I think is interesting too is that Matt has always been a writer, but I guess he had never. It wasn't like he was ever striving to become a professional writer. He just was writing music at home for Jesus,
Yeah,
and
I
I
love
love that. Even though he wrote everything on like scrap pieces of paper around the house, I couldn't throw them away because I'm like, there's beautiful lyrics on it, so they all ended up in like drawers and.
Yeah.
But
I love that. You were telling me that you would be like organizing in the kitchen. You'd be like, there are lyrics here, there are lyrics, and you could never just throw away
right,
pieces
Yeah.
of mail.
right.
Yeah. Then it becomes weird because you can't throw the bills away that you'd normally throw away. And so it's like, man,
So maybe it was a good.
gotta keep this. I think it's like the Lord, like
Yeah,
work
maybe it was the
out
Lord.
the financial situation we were in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. What was that? What's that question? Oh, how you guys got connected. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Lauren was the one who connected you guys. She said you're an amazing, which is incredible. And I think that this story really speaks to your humility. I think both of you guys are extremely humble. But Matt, you are very humble. And I won't even look at you when I say it because I know that's a weird thing to even receive.
The most humble.
Okay. I guess it's not a weird thing for you to receive. But the humility that you had. And to your point, Amy, like he wasn't chasing after something. Like
Right.
literally the Lord was chasing after you. Okay.
Mm.
So now that being said, your life didn't look like, okay, yeah, I want to be a worship leader, a musician. I want to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us an abridged version of your life story, your testimony? Because I think, and I have to say, shout out, Matt had an incredible song come out recently called Easy Surrender that you have to go stream right now, immediately after this podcast episode. But I think it's so important to hear your story and hear the songs that you write with the Lord and your rich history with God. If you could just speak to your story, to your testimony,
Yeah.
and let people hear that.
Definitely just butt in because I know you're gonna try to keep me on the correct
Girl,
path.
go for it.
I'll say this though, like I was chasing something, right? But it's still the same thing I'm chasing now, and that's Jesus. And like as long as we keep Him the center of everything, then no matter what happens, it's the prize is the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started playing music at like 15 because if you see these churches in the movies that are these like little small one-room churches, that's the church I grew up in.
Mhm.
We had redback hymnals. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Yeah, and so that was it. And my uncle took this church over, and they didn't have a band. I was 15 at the time, and he's like, "Can you guys learn to play instruments?" And so I started learning to play, and that set me on the journey of like just learning instrumentation. And but I'd always kind of written stuff, but that like took it to the next level.
Yeah.
I feel like you want to butt in. I feel like you're glaring at me.
No, I'm just smiling.
The back of my neck is
Oh, I love that. So that's the start of the musical journey. How old were you when you started to learn to play instruments?
15.
15. Okay. So now let's backtrack a little bit.
Mhm.
Before that, before music, before church, like what did your life look like, your upbringing? Because I think it's important for people to hear. I mean, we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony, and I think you have a really powerful story. So
Yeah, I grew up in a broken home. Like my dad left my mom when I was about 5. And I still remember like my dad like slamming my mom up against the refrigerator, like when I was a kid, like choking my mom. It's weird that I don't have very many memories of when I was that age, but it's weird how trauma works. Like those things just get ingrained in you.
Yeah.
And so my mom at that point was just alone with 3 kids at that point. It was me and my 2 sisters. And she did the best that she could. I mean, she
Yeah.
was a single parent. There was times we lived with my grandparents, and so it was just rough. We're really poor. We didn't have a lot. We had meager means for sure.
Mm.
But she did the best she could. So I do want to say, like, this is not a shot at my mother at all, because
Yeah.
she was the one that stuck around,
Yeah.
and she was the one that was there. And so, yeah, it was just poverty is such a mindset. Because I remember we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
We lived in a trailer, and not that there's anything wrong with that. That's completely fine to live in a trailer. But I remember like thinking in my mind as a kid how amazing it would be to like live in an actual house one day.
Yeah.
And in my mind that was so far away, like that would never happen. And it's just a crazy thing to think about, because I believe that poverty is not only a mindset, but it's also spiritual.
100%.
And so growing up in that, you start to question your worth, because the world tells you that you're worthy based on what you can offer it.
Right.
And Jesus says you're worthy because you're mine.
Right.
And so it just took a while to really get to that position. I don't know that we're all really at that full position, but it's just a place of learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my dad left. I didn't see my dad again until I was like 15.
Yeah, you got to tell that story. That's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah. So there was this girl on the bus that I liked as a friend. And
Because you didn't like any girls before me.
were there girls before you?
Right.
You know,
No.
I thought
No.
they were all just men with long hairs. So yeah, so there's this girl on the bus that I liked, and I'm talking to this girl on the phone, and in the background, this other friend of hers is like grilling her, like, who's this guy? Like, she's being a good friend, right? Like, do you know? And so she's like, his name is Matt Pelt, and she's like, wait, that's my stepdad's name. Now keep in mind, I don't know who she's talking about. And so she's like, well, I'm like, what's your stepdad's first name? And he's like, she's like Larry, which is my dad's name. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. And it turns out her best friend was my dad's stepdaughter that I hadn't seen from like 5 until 15. So my dad gets on the phone and he's like, hey, I am your dad. Do you want to meet up at some point? Of course I said yes, because I've got all these questions running around in my head, like of worth. And so I would just say this real quick, like if you're a good father, like Drew Medina is such a good father.
He is.
It is like one of the most important jobs in the world, because we get so much of our worth by what our fathers on earth give to us.
Right.
And so he comes pick me up because I'm working at this this truck stop. I'm washing trucks for a summer job. He comes to pick me up. I know instantly who he is, but he comes up to me and he asks if I know where Matt is because my father didn't know what I looked like. And so all of the questions of worth and all the things I was dealing with, that just like compounded it.
Sure.
And so, but yeah,
Dang.
we still, we have a relationship now, but it's, you know, it is what it is. And the Lord has used that for both of us to heal in different ways. And it's
Yeah.
been good.
So what, and it might be a little bit of a detour, but like in the midst of all of that, because you said you were at your uncle's church that you took over when you were 15. What was the moment that you knew Jesus was real?
Mm. The moment I knew Jesus was real is I remember my uncle preaching and, you know, giving an altar call because, you know, I'm from the South and that's just what we do. And I remember I'm like, he is speaking to me. Like I've heard all this stuff before, but he is speaking to me. And this is the first time that I know I heard the Lord's voice. I went to the altar. I'm gonna try not to get emotional. So I kneel down and in my mind, I've got like everything I'm gonna say, like confess. And like, dang. Hold on. I'm not gonna cry. My eyes are sweaty here. It's
I thought it was
I brought
cool in
some
here.
humidity with
Oh, okay.
but no, so like because I'm this person that had all this question of worth.
Yeah.
And so as I'm going to the altar to tell the Lord, like, this is how I messed up. This is, you know, I kneel down at the altar and I hear the Lord say, before I can even speak, he just says, I forgive you. And it broke me. Gosh, this podcast sucks. Why did we agree to this? I don't like to cry because I'm a man, and they said that like if they bottled my tears, it could cure snake bites. And there are people in the South that handle snakes. And so, that was my uncle's church. No, it wasn't.
Oh my gosh. I was like, no way.
No, but man, that's just how the Lord does. Like
Yeah.
he takes,
Wow.
like I'm focused on one thing and the Lord is like, yeah, that's good. But like, this is what you need. And, yeah.
Isn't that so wild? So what does your relationship look like with the Father? I mean, just everything that you've seen, gone through, even that moment of meeting your dad face to face, like what impact has that had on your walk with Christ?
Like,
I know that that's like a really big question, but like specifically geared toward our Heavenly Father, like what was the moment you like came to that conclusion, you had that revelation of God as your Father?
yeah, I think that was the day.
That was the day.
You know, I think that was the day because at that point I just really wanted a father.
Yeah.
I had male role models, right? Like my uncle was in my life. He took me to church. My grandpa was in my life. He was like deaf in one ear and couldn't hear out of the other. So I had to like yell at him, but I would hear him.
Did you guys hear that? Deaf in one ear and couldn't hear out of the other.
And he couldn't hear out of the other. So I would hear my grandpa every night because he couldn't hear himself, or maybe he could, but I would hear him praying to the Lord. And like I would hear him reading the Bible out loud.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so I had male role models. And so, but it's something different like when it's your father.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, when that helped take that, then
Yeah.
and it wasn't like just from that moment, like the Lord changed my entire life, but he set me on the course to change my entire life. And so there are giants that my kids will never have to face.
Amen.
You know,
Amen.
because that stopped with me.
Yes.
And so, yeah, they won't have to wonder like, where is their father or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah.
And
Anything you want to say?
No, I thought that was beautiful.
I just don't want to cry anymore.
yeah. If you like what you've listened to so far, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to be part of more spirit-led conversations. If you have any questions or anything you want us to touch on in our next episode, leave a comment and we'll be sure to read it.
So, okay. So we talked briefly about like okay, tell us about your high school experience. We were kind of laughing about it earlier. Like, what was the class that you were like, yeah, I wasn't, what were we? Oh, computer class. We were talking about using computers. And you jokingly said, yeah, I wasn't learning how to use a computer. Tell us about your high school experience.
Yeah. I definitely was not typing, unfortunately. I went to high school, and at one point, the high school I went to had the per capita the most teen pregnancies in the world per capita, more than Africa,
Crazy.
more than Anaheim Hills,
What?
more than it was so bad that we had another school next to the high school that teen moms would bring their kids, they would drop them off, and then they could go to school in that school.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I was one of those people that had a kid in high school, because if I had been concentrating on typing, I probably would have been better off. But yeah, that was my high school experience. I became a father, and were you gonna?
No, I was just going to say, tell us a little bit about like, okay, so you became a father, and then you have a funny story about when you're with when did you and your then girlfriend get married? Was that
I think she was still in high school.
okay?
Yeah,
Wow.
barefoot and pregnant, as they say in the South.
Barefoot and pregnant. And then you have to tell us the Bible story.
Oh, this is the story you want. Okay.
Yes, you have to tell
Scratch
us.
that other story from the
We
text.
can, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was married, I was young, and I wasn't following the Lord at this point. I had kind of like fallen away from the Lord. Do y'all say backslid here?
Yeah. That's
Because I said that the other day, and there was people that were like, what's backsliding? Well, like, if you got to ask, you probably are. And so
good point.
So we moved into this house, and this house had a basement. And so my wife at the time was like, hey, my aunt's going to bring all this stuff over. She's going to store it in our basement. She'll pay us, but it's only going to be here for like 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So she brings it. 2 months later, the crap is still there, and I'm not allowed to say that, or am I allowed to say crap? Because I just said crap.
You said it. It's fine. Crap. It's fine.
2 months later, the stuff is still there in my basement, and I have not received payment. So in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to get whatever I want out of her stuff, and I'm going to sell it to get my money.
Sure.
So I go downstairs, and in the midst of all this stuff, because most of it was in garbage bags, I don't know what I thought I was going to get with it, but I see a Bible on top of this rubble. Now, I'd never read the Bible before. I went to church and heard preaching and got saved, but I'd never read it for myself. So I picked this Bible up right before I start rifling through all her stuff, because that's what I was going to do. I opened it, and I read the Bible for 4 hours straight.
It's so cool.
Like, I went down there. This is how I know the Lord can use any situation. I went down there to steal, and the Lord changed my entire life because it came alive.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience.
I love that so much.
You were gonna go the stuff. No, I did not. Just kidding.
And I didn't make any money, but no.
No, I didn't.
That's amazing. Yeah, you went to go and get your payment, and God gave you so much more. Okay, so moving forward, you had a couple more kids.
Yeah.
And if you want to just touch a little bit on that relationship, but how the beautiful Aime Pelt came into your life.
Yeah.
And you can jump in whenever you want to.
When we get there, I'll let you jump in and say whatever you want. But I just want to say the story because I feel like it paints such a good picture of you. So anyway, I had 4 kids before Aime came along. 3, and then she got her tubes tied and she got pregnant anyway. I think they tied her intestines and not her tubes. So like they tied something that wasn't supposed to be tied. She got pregnant anyway. And so we had 4 children, and then she like fell away in a way that won't talk about much. I'll just say she wasn't there.
Mm.
And yeah, and so here were these 4 little girls, and I'm like, nobody's gonna date somebody with 4 kids. And so Aime comes along, and she has had her own struggles and her own things, and was told that she would never have kids. And so as we got closer and started like really like, okay, this is somebody I want to be with, she just looked at those kids and like, these are my kids.
Yeah.
And she raised these 4 little orphans from the time they were little. And I tell people all the time, like, the closest picture to Jesus that you'll ever see on the earth is an adoptive parent, because that's not their blood child. But if someone tried to tell her those are not your kids,
Come on.
she would bring out that Miami shank and just, because she's from Miami and she has shanked people.
Oh, goodness.
She's like,
Yeah.
oh, goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love our story. I think that it is just a real picture of what God can do in your life whenever you allow Him to work. And so yes, like Matt was saying, we met online, like a lot of people do now. Back then it was a little bit more rare, but it was
But tell them the name.
on a site called Plenty of Fish.
And then we had a little minnow.
Yeah. And then we had little minnows. But yeah, and right from the get-go, I mean, Matt told me that he had 4 daughters.
Yeah.
And I remember as we talked on the phone for like 2 months, okay, before we ever met. And I knew him like I know him now, like just a funny person that was, outgoing, great personality. And then we met in person. and that's where things got a little dicey. Yeah. Because I remember our first date that we went on after 2 months, when we finally decided to meet, we pull up to a restaurant, he knows it's me. We've been on the phone. He like sees me. I see him. I'm pulling right next to him, and he gets out of the car and like beelines for the restaurant. And I'm like, where are you going? I'm like, are you gonna come say hello? And he turned around with his head down, walked back to me. I don't think he made eye contact at this point. Walks up to me and goes like, and then just turns back around,
Amazing.
beeline him for the restaurant. And I'm like,
He was hungry.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to open the door for you. That's all.
So eager to be a gentleman.
And I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is strange. I go in, we sit down, and he just proceeded to like hide behind the menu. He would look at the menu and then he would like peek at me and then hide behind the menu. And I'm like, now I know why this guy is like dating online, because he's not meeting a girl in person.
Yeah.
And
That's messed up.
sorry, but I mean,
Just now learning this.
Yeah.
Okay. Took pity on me, huh?
no, but I did feel like it was a little bit of a challenge, because I was very outgoing and never met a stranger in my life. And he was so shy in person, which threw me off, because I'm like, on the phone, this is not who you are.
Yeah.
But then in person, it was kind of like this shut down person that was just much more introverted, nothing like I expected, because he was so funny and outgoing on the phone.
Yeah.
And so I felt like
Threw you for a loop.
yes. And like
Yeah.
the Lord could use me to help you, pull you out of your shell.
Yeah. And just saying, this is why discernment is so important when you're dating, because you don't know if it's like, oh, well, this guy just doesn't have any manners or whatever it is.
Right.
But you had to have sensed something in him, because
Yes.
obviously you guys were talking like 2 months prior and you knew his personality. But
Yes, especially back then, I was really concerned. Like, could he be an ex murderer? I'm not sure. However,
online dating at that time.
yes, we had a lot of talks about the Lord during that 2 months, and I could hear his heart and how much he loved Jesus, and that saved us because I'm like, man, he really loves God, like genuine, like a passion for Jesus.
Yeah.
But even whenever it comes to like singing, so we started dating, right? We right in the beginning, like I found out pretty quickly that he was an incredible singer and a songwriter. But like even the first time that I heard him, I had to put my phone down in the room and hit record and leave, and then listen to it later. Like once I left, I could listen to it, but I couldn't do that right then.
Yeah.
Which is now to see you now on stage and leading worship for so many people and writing such incredible music. I'm just like, wow, look at God.
Yeah, and what's so cool is that you got to be part of that healing journey, and I'd also probably add that you're probably a big part of it. Like you, of course, the Lord had to heal a lot of things, and you were mentioning before when we were talking that is because of everything you came to learn is because of everything that he had been through was, there was this kind of shield there,
Right.
probably out of protection. And then you got to be part of him coming out of his shell and kind of pulling him along the way. And now that's, come into your worship leading and your writing, going into rooms that you didn't know were big rooms to be in at the time and writing, music for the Lord. I guess, so from there, sorry, I'm going to pause for 1 second as I look.
Oh, good, because I did get a little bit sidetracked because I was first talking about the kids. So I don't know if I was supposed to go back to that or not, because we were talking about how whenever we met and you had, 4 little girls and what that looked like.
Yeah.
But
if there's anything else regarding that you guys wanted to touch on, because I know that on the phone you mentioned a moment that I think you got misty-eyed over.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that moment when you guys came together and you had your 4 girls?
Yeah.
What was that moment like?
This is when like we were starting to get serious.
Yeah.
And so she met my kids, who at that point were without their mom and had been for a while. And so one of the first things that my kids asked her is that, like, they were instantly coming to sit on her lap and all that, and they asked, "Would you be my mom?"
Yeah.
Like that was
I love that.
Don't make me cry in this podcast now. Yeah, that was just because I had been told that there was a good chance I probably wouldn't ever be able to have kids.
unless you found a real man.
Yes. And
They know.
and so I just, whenever I met the girls, they were 9, 8, 6, and 5 years old. And so, and they were so beautiful and they were so sweet and they wanted to have a mom. And it was our third born, Madison. She crawled up in my lap and she just looked at me, and they're Southern. Okay. I'm from Miami, well, Hollywood, Florida, right there by Miami. But they're from the South. And so she crawled up in my lap and she just looked at me and she said, will you please be my mama? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it was just one of those moments where I'm like, I instantly just felt so attached to them. I was like, I'll put up with him if I need to keep these girls.
There it is.
There it is.
No, they were they were wonderful. I mean, an absolute gift from the Lord for me. And I just took them in as my kids, and it wasn't just me, my entire family. I mean, I went from
I love that.
like the baby in the family to like they were all like, scratch that. These girls were like getting just gifts from all aunts, uncles, cousins. They just loved them instantly. Yeah. And then the Lord blessed us with 2 more kids. So
I love that so much. 2 little miracles.
yeah.
Okay. So you guys come together and you were leading worship at a church that you mentioned they were not into like the music thing, right? Writing songs.
Right.
And so how did you, I know you said you'd been writing for a long time. Like what, for those of you who don't know, Matt is an incredible lyricist, beautiful lyrics, like truly some of the most beautiful, deep, theologically sound lyrics I've ever heard. What what drew you to that? Like when did you fall in love with words? Because it just shows when you come into co-writes, and your melodies are beautiful as well. But
Well, I appreciate that
yeah.
coming from you, who is like one of the best songwriters and melodists that I know, and worship leaders,
Mm.
and all the stuff that you do. No, the first song I ever wrote that I remember was when I was in school. We had these crayons, and we had these heaters, and you could push the crayon into it, and it would look like the crayon was like evaporating. And as like a kid in kindergarten, I thought that was so cool. And then my teacher found that, and back in the South in that day, they could paddle you for that.
Cool.
And so I was like, okay. She caught me, and I was like, oh no. She's like, you're getting paddling when you come back from lunch. She didn't paddle me right then. She made me sit through lunch.
Wow.
I'm sitting there, shaking. Anyway, and so I'm sitting there terrified at lunch. And on the way to lunch, I wrote this song that's like, it's gonna hurt. I think I'm gonna cry. It's gonna hurt. I think I'm gonna die. And I just was singing that over and over. So
That's actually so deep.
yeah.
I'm like, I could cry thinking about that.
And then I got
Those
back,
words.
and she paddled me. And the first hit, I braced myself, and it was like, pop. And I was like, this ain't. I'll burn the crayons again. Wait till tomorrow. And I did. I got several more paddlings
Oh my
there.
gosh.
But yeah, I guess that's when, like, I don't know. I think
That's
sometimes the Lord just puts things on people,
Yeah.
And that's why I think you can't, like, you have to give God all of the credit.
Yes.
Because there's nothing that you can really take credit for,
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked earlier about Easy Surrender that just came out. Such an amazing song. If you could just speak to that song. I love even hearing that testimony of that day when you were 15 years old going up for that altar call, and like literally to what you were saying before about Easy Surrender, which I won't go into. I'll let you talk about, the heart behind that song, but the surrender that comes when you know who your father is, when you know who God is. So I'll let you speak to that. But like with that picture in mind, that song is just like blowing my mind even more. So go ahead, talk about it.
I love this song because it is really my life. Like
Yeah.
so when I wrote this song to a co-write, I had a verse and a chorus.
Yeah.
And I wrote this with Ricky Jackson and Chrissy Nordoff. And as we're writing this, Ricky comes out with the second verse that's like, patient. You've always been patient with me, God. I have a history, but you saw the diamonds in my soul. So what he didn't know was like, from the time she met me, she's like, I feel like you're a diamond in the rough.
Wow.
And so as we're writing the song, I feel like the song is so fitting for what the Lord has done in
Yeah.
my life. And I feel like it will help so many other people who've probably been through the same things.
Yeah.
My hope is that they find a father that is real, that loves them, that has all the answers they need, that can do for them
Yeah.
what only God can do.
And so what does that mean? Like easy surrender. Why
Yeah.
is it easy?
Well, everything in the world has to be earned. Like everything, you don't get anything for free from the world.
Yeah.
And like with God, it's the opposite. It's like we work because we're affirmed. We work because he loves us. We work as a result of like just knowing who we are in him.
Yeah.
And so when that mindset shifts, it becomes like, man, I can easily surrender to him because his love for me is not based on what I do for him. That's why, like, when Jesus got baptized, right? Before he ever did any work for the Father affirmed Jesus in
So
front of everyone.
Yeah.
And so when we
good.
understand that, we can surrender to Jesus, and it just becomes easy.
Come on, Matt.
Come on,
Preach. So you spoke earlier about like this shy thing, right? That you overcame. If you could speak to someone who I was praying before coming in and filming this, I just felt like you have a word through your testimony, even where you're at today with the Lord, for someone who feels stuck, someone who feels maybe stuck situationally, emotionally, spiritually, even financially. Like, what's the word that you would have for that person? as they're listening to Easy Surrender, as they're listening to this podcast, hearing your story, maybe they have some common denominators with you in their own upbringing.
Right.
What would you say to that person?
I would just say to them that there is infinite hope in Jesus. And there is no limitation on what he can do. And like, it doesn't matter the situation you're in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because everything has a name, right? But there's a name above every name.
Yeah.
And so when I think of that, I think that there are really no stuck situations
So good.
in Jesus. Like, there may be seasons that you go through, but man, I would just say keep hope and stay in love with Jesus, because that fixes everything.
That's so good. One last question.
Mm-hmm.
Who were some of the voices in your life that encouraged you, who maybe pulled you up when you, on the days that you weren't feeling like worthy, like you were saying before? Who were those voices in your life that encouraged you?
Well, definitely her. She's been, if she's not here, I'm not here. And I'd still be wherever I was, probably in a broken down situation.
Yeah.
But definitely her. Without her, I'm not here. And so, and then my uncle would always, speak into my life about things. And so, yeah, those were the two.
Amazing.
Yep.
So when we spoke before, you mentioned when after writing with Lauren and coming out, I think you came out here
Yep.
to write with Mel, right?
Yep.
Just speak a little bit about that.
Okay, what you got to understand, 2017, I Am comes out. I am a fan. Instantly.
I am a fan.
I am a fan. Instantly, right?
Great song,
And
yes.
so at this point, when Lauren says, "Do you know who Influence Music is?" I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." So when Melody's like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna have you come out," the first writes were horrible with Melody. I was so nervous because I'm a fan. I'm like, I am gonna mess this up. I couldn't think. And then of course the first write I have is with Bark and Melody, who have written with each other like 5 million times. I'm like, this is never gonna work. I feel like an imposter. And I should not be here. And Melody just kept. And so I just want to thank her for this. She just kept letting me write with you guys.
Yeah.
And she's another voice that like has told me what I needed to hear, maybe not what I wanted to hear. But even when worship leading, she's like, that was great and so anointed. I just need like 40% more. Okay. You know how she is. And dude, thank God for that, because it's helped me so much. And so I asked Melody, I'm like, why did you continue to do that? Why did you keep flying me out here and writing and all this stuff? And she's like, because Lauren has never vouched for anybody, and I knew she wasn't wrong. And so when you get the right people speaking for you in your life, it makes all the difference in the world.
Literally to what you were saying, like the Father affirmed Jesus before he went out.
Right.
And that's so amazing. I love that so much.
I think it was so funny that in the beginning, Pastor Phil referred to Matt as meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Like he said, whenever Matt's leading worship, you get the meat and potatoes. It's good, but you know what you're getting.
But he ain't gonna move.
Yeah, meat and potatoes. And then recently he was like, do you know you are not the same person as you were whenever you first started coming here?
All of you guys have such a part in that.
Yes.
I'm just so thankful for y'all.
It's just speaking to having the right voices around you. Like you have to have people that see what's in you and speak to it. And to your point of how Melody communicates, she is so clear. And you have to have people who will be clear with you, whether or not it's what you want to hear in the moment, but encourage you, because just as much as what we're doing is spiritual and we have to hear from Holy Spirit, like we need wise counsel around us too.
Amen.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to take us to the next level. We need to have community around us.
That's so true. I think that's one thing, backing up a little bit to how Matt grew up.
Yeah.
He didn't have very much of that happening. And whenever whenever I met him, I did see so much. I did tell him I felt like he was a diamond in the rough because I'm like, you don't belong in this life.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have anybody speaking into his life, telling him what he could be, what he could do in life.
Yeah.
So he just kind of followed right in the footsteps of what was happening in that county, which was having kids whenever you're a kid and just not really going anywhere. Like you, at that point, you're then just trying to make enough money to survive and take care of your
Right.
children. And which you were doing a great job of that, of providing for his kids. But it's like, where else are you going to go in life? And whenever we met, I'm like, I saw so much more value in him. And I'm like, you got to get out of this place. Like, let's get these kids and go on.
Yeah.
So,
The Lord had so much more.
yeah,
Yeah. I love that.
we did.
You said that Matt was not made to be shy. Was that what you said?
Yeah. Well, actually, Matt says that God didn't create him to be shy,
That's right.
Yeah.
but life just kind of.
I wasn't shy until I got in like 6th grade
Yeah.
because I used to make jokes all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
but it all ties back to worth. Like,
Yeah.
and I made this joke and nobody laughed. And from that point on, I was like, I'm not going to talk anymore.
That's so sad.
It's so, but it is,
Because
but it's not my personality.
Right.
But it changed my personality, but the Lord just works things out.
So Andrew and I used to do youth ministry, and there would be no shade. There would be parents that would come in and be like, "This is my daughter, da da da. She's really shy," in front of us, and we're like, "Stop speaking that over your kid."
Right.
Yeah.
And like Drew just like kind of started to say like, "Well, not when we're done with them," And so it's just like speaking life over
Mm-hmm.
people that that you're over, and putting good people around you is so
Yeah.
vastly important.
For sure.
So thank you guys.
If you have any questions for us, go ahead and leave a comment and we'll be sure to read it. Thank you again for listening to the Influence Music Podcast.